Oh,
And we are live. Welcome to episode number 35, 35, of the Risk Reward Show presented by Risk Reward Media. My name is Chris Mercado, aka Mr. Risk. And as usual, I am joined by
Mr. Reward.
Yes. And as usual, we are here to help you find the upside in your career, in your business ventures, and in your personal life. Today's main topic is going to be the Great Resignation. Are you staying or leaving? So for those folks who believe that quitters never win, I think we have some contrary evidence to present to you a little bit later. But before we get to our main topic, let's head to our Risk Reward Weekly Rewind. And let's go to a flashback of last Monday, a few hours after we aired our live show. There was some news in the NFL where Las Vegas Raiders coach Jon Gruden stepped down or was forced out based on some interesting emails that he had over an extended period of time. And I think we don't want to definitely overlook this really significant development in the nation's favorite sport. So Derek, what are your thoughts on Jon Gruden being outed as a racist, homophobe, misogynistic ex-football coach?
Well, I would say the timing of it was very particular, especially just to talk about again the Dave Chappelle special that also dropped a couple weeks back, The Closer. Dave's main, I guess not topic, but his main point was that there's a lot of wrongdoing that goes into the black community, and typically the voices aren't heard and the stories aren't really being told, and therefore it's nothing's really being done. But however, once you mention anybody from the LGBTQ plus community, that's when all hell breaks loose. I know Dave made some jokes and some points about it just to kind of get his point just across. But in this particular moment, you kind of seen it with your own eyes. I know when the story first broke about Jon Gruden, he was basically talking about the I think his name is DeMaurice Smith. Forgive me if I'm getting his name wrong, but he's the head of the NFL Players Association, and he was claiming that his lips were reminded him of tires, and just kind of going off of those racist comments. Jon Gruden gave a statement right away, claiming that I'm not racist and everything, along those lines. And literally, you had people, shout outs to Stephen A. But he was one of the people who thought, because of these comments, Jon Gruden should not be fired. These were comments when he wasn't a coach. These were comments that doesn't pertain to his actual job. This is talk that happens. I mean, the fact that he's still sending emails with this goes to show how old school he is. But literally there was of course there was backlash, but to the point where his job wasn't actually questioned. But later that day on Monday Night Football, literally during the middle of I believe it was a Ravens game, Adam Schefter came out and said, the Raiders have let go of Jon Gruden has resigned from his position as the head coach. And then, as that story kind of broke, you heard more emails were released about him with his homophobic slurs. And then, I mean, there were a whole bunch of memes going out saying that, this was the moment that kind of took the cake. But when he was talking about people of color, it wasn't as much backlash. So, I mean, I know he gave a whole bunch of, I'm pretty sure with all of the emails, there's plenty of reasons why he should be fired or he should have kind of stepped down from that role. But I just wanted to, for me, I found it to be really, really on point of Dave Chappelle proving his point and also seeing it play out in the real world. What's your thoughts on that?
So I see that. I do feel like we need to remind our audience about some bigger context of this. So first of all, this investigation isn't centered on John Gruden. It's centered on
Exactly.
the Washington football team and the culture that they've had as part of the organization. And this investigation is a federal investigation of 600,000 emails. And it is weird that a Las Vegas Raiders coach is the first one to be outed. It's not even about him, right? And these email exchanges, so the tie into the Washington football team is that, so while John Gruden was on ESPN calling games, he was emailing folks in the league. One of those people was the ex-general manager of the Washington football team, Bruce Allen. So there are exchanges that are not just like, again, Black racist stereotypes regarding, big lips. There's also a lot of misogynistic language. So John Gruden disrespecting women. And then there's the homophobic language as well. He even got at the commissioner of the NFL. So aside from Asians and Latinos, like he got everybody.
He checked all the boxes.
Right? He got everybody. So I know people want to claim like, just, there wasn't anything that was going on when it was just the big black lips illusion. But now that they mentioned like homophobic comments, like that's why he was fired. No, I would argue no. It's because he got at everyone except for Asians and Latinos. He got everyone. He sprayed everybody. So, so it's the sheer number of people he offended, right? Not that it's not enough to offend 15% of the population, Black folks, right, of the U.S. population. Yes, that's enough. And folks can legally argue, well, he wasn't an NFL employee at the time. Well, he was an ESPN employee, and ESPN and NFL, they are intimate partners. So one can argue that, he should have been fired just based off of the initial leak. But I do want to remind people, like this wasn't even about John Gruden. So the leaking here feels very strategic, and I'm not sure who's doing it. A lot of people aren't sure who's doing it, but John Gruden is not the big fish here. There's 600 emails investigating the Washington football team. That ex-general manager is someone who had almost allegedly coerced cheerleaders to pose topless, right? And have photos taken of them. And then he would share these photos with his crew, including John Gruden, right? So that's where a little bit of the misogyny kicks in as well. So I think John Gruden is just the first big piece, but there's more coming. And I mean, there's a couple of things that really irked me about people's reactions as well, right? So the whole situation is bothersome because, like it's not like we had insider info, but you would listen to John Gruden, just call game. Like we both love football, right? We remember him. He's like almost like he came across as kind of lovable on TV because of how much he loved football and how, I guess, for lack of a better word, folksy he came across.
Real football guy.
Yeah, right. And since we love the sport, like, we feel duped. But, no one stuck up for him in terms of like old players, right? At best, there were a couple of people who were just in the public eye and they stayed neutral, right? But old players aren't there like, super defending him. So that should be a telltale sign that, all right, he's been a bad dude for a while. But again, like there's this issue of like, how could you be so stupid to have this in work emails? Like if he did this in personal emails, I mean, that would have been a smarter move. So people were pointing that out. But then the bigger thing is like, wait, no, there's a big behavioral and cognitive and affective meaning like emotion. Those are the changes that need to be made here. Like that's the hard work.
Yeah.
Do we banish John Gruden and not call him back for like, hey, we need to fix you? Like, do we just like set it aside? And this is what pissed me off about the oh, I knew it all along people on LinkedIn, right? So I saw the reactions on LinkedIn, like, I am not surprised. Great. And they're not even, I'm not even sure they're like football fans. So I'm like, fine, you're not surprised. What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it? Because if you're a football fan and you didn't have intimate knowledge of who John Gruden was, like you want to play it for him, you would be surprised. I know like Derek, were you may not have been 100% surprised, but were you at least a little disappointed or somewhat?
Yeah, because I really like John Gruden.
There you go.
When I used to watch him on TV, he used to be that hype person that used to get me excited to watch football. Like his takes were good. His like deep dives on players and basically he would be able to kind of just tell you like, hey, you should look out for this player, or I expect this team to play this type of way. So for me, I just seen John Gruden as like my like football guy. And when he got that head coaching job, I was excited because I'm like, I see you on TV, I see that football, and you have like your special segments when you're talking about like QBs and all that, and to see you take that to the actual like league, I was excited for him. So when this story broke, I was like, damn, John, like really? Like, I mean, the thing is that it's sad to say, but you have to know that people speak like this every day, like regardless of who you actually are. I think the stupid part is that he put it in like an email. Like that's just the old man in him that's still writing this like in like emails. But literally, I'm pretty sure that the players themselves, that locker room is probably horrible, horrible for anybody. So, I mean, you did mention that this is a bigger thing, and he was basically like that collateral damage, which I think was probably like how that went down. But the NFL is really working hard to kind of get rid of that mindset of like, we're not gonna have any like homophobic people or people just talking bad about just around just like any bad just like language. But I mean, people are gonna talk like that like regardless. So it's hard to be so upset at him because there are people that have that type of language when they're just like with friends and stuff like that. They could be joking around, which means that there's no real malice behind it. But for him to put it in like an email, and the fact that there's eyes on like this case, like you're now that you're in like that public eye, people are going to think that you are just like a certain way. I'm not saying that he's racist. I'm pretty sure he has stereotypical thoughts. But it just sucks to see that. Actually, no, I'll take that back. I feel like me as a person of color, these are thoughts. I mean, I'm happy that this came out because for me, these are thoughts that I know people are thinking about when they see me. It's just that now that's like a confirmation that this is what white people behind doors may like still talk about. So the fact that they expose this type of language, for me, it kind of reaffirms how I think. And maybe like if I'm walking into a room and I'm the only person of color, I have like these thoughts of like, hey, people may start to think this and this, but it comes out to be actually true. So it sucks that he did it. The team is still winning, so
yeah, the team is still winning, which is like the bottom line for the NFL. The teams are winning, and
yeah.
They're making money, so they'll get over this. But again, these are like bigger issues, and for one, if you want to do the hard work, that means converting people like John Gruden and like explaining to someone like him, like why this is so hurtful. Like that's the hard work that needs to be done. So for all the folks who are like know-it-alls, like, and like, I knew this all along, well, what are you gonna do to try to fix it? And I think what we're doing right now is putting it out there. And, you know, when it comes to these topics, like we don't dodge it. So let's keep these very challenging conversations coming. And another one that's also a challenging thing related to foreign policy. So the second point in our weekly rewind is last week, Microsoft decided to shut down their version of LinkedIn in China. So imagine LinkedIn no longer being able to access a billion people, a billion plus. So potential 1 billion, you know, professionals that could be on the leading professional networking platform in the world. And for me, as someone who loves being on LinkedIn, it's the place where I feel most free, actually. And I think it's a simple case of risk reward, with China cracking down on their own tech companies, and their institution of sort of like requiring or upping the requirements for folks to operate in China. Like it just seemed pretty clear that LinkedIn and Microsoft, who owns LinkedIn, thought that the risk reward there just no longer was a huge benefit. But think about that, like, yeah, let me not operate in the most populous country in the world. Like that must be a tremendous amount of headache and risk for a company to do that. So it makes sense to me. Whether or not I support it, like I don't have the intimate details. But what I argued on a post related to this on LinkedIn is like, all right, Microsoft, all right, LinkedIn, fine. You made that move. Now I want you, if I was consulting you, I would recommend you to focus on like frontier markets. Think of like countries like Nigeria and Africa, right? And see if you can leverage your platform and really tap that market and really help like these frontier markets expand. I would also recommend that LinkedIn focus even more on like crypto related content, because I think that's lagging as well. So you know, a multi-pronged approach to balance off like what they would have gotten operating in China. So those are my thoughts on that. How about you?
I mean, I'm just waiting to see who else follows suit. I think Microsoft is a big enough name to where if they do something, then you may have other companies that are going to do the exact same thing. I'm pretty sure all of the companies in like the U.S. have some type of like relationships with China. So I'm not sure if they're willing to take that risk for that bigger reward here. And I wanted to touch upon the point that you mentioned earlier about, you know, how LinkedIn should go after these like other markets. Whenever I'm posting a job for one of my clients, I would say when I first post that job, 80% of the people that apply are from Nigeria. That is a hub of so many talented people, but they can't work in the States due to like, you know, immigration reasons. But if LinkedIn was to tap into that market, it would be amazing. Not only to see, you know, people within, you know, that country like get jobs, but in like the sense of that like they're like leading that front, because it's sad that I can't, you know, work with them in terms of like hiring them for the clients that I have, but it's like there's so much talent out there. But another thought I had was if, you know, of course if LinkedIn does it, who else will do it? But what I would want to find out is like how, like, are they really like, I mean, yes, they are leaving from China, but does that stop the people of China from using LinkedIn? Because I mean, I don't see I feel like LinkedIn has made it stable as like that one stop shop for anybody who's looking for like a job or anybody who's like serious about like their work. So I'm not sure if the people are being restricted to not use it, uh, or like I mean, like when they left, like did they just leave their offices or just shut down like their I guess like their hub out there, or was it more to it?
Well, they have a version of LinkedIn for China,
Okay.
and then that was like shut down. Like we're not doing this anymore.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, I don't see people around the world not using LinkedIn. I feel like they'll find like their way around to actually use it. Maybe use like a VPN or something like that. Honestly.
Well, yeah, it's a valuable like resource, been one for us, and I'm sure professionals around the globe, and people are innovative. They'll find their workarounds. But again, when we think about the challenges that companies face, you'll have for global companies, you'll have an issue like foreign policy and dealing with, I guess, the biggest market in the globe. And then as a transition to our main topic, a lot of companies right now are facing another issue that's more domestic. And this is the Great Resignation. We have people straight up quitting en masse. And there's a lot of reasons why people have been quitting during these pandemic times. And Derek and I will take this segment to really flesh out some of these phenomena that's contributing to the Great Resignation. So, Derek, top of mind, like what do you think is the root cause of the Great Resignation?
I mean, the fact that we have 4.3 million people quitting their jobs in August, I think that number. I mean, I've never seen a number like that. I'm pretty sure there was higher numbers in like the past or close to it, but 4.3 is pretty significant. A personal story. I mean, not like a personal story, but for our audience, like whenever you're walking around, whether it be to like to the city or you're just walking around, I want you to pay attention to how many stores are saying now hiring. I know a lot of them are coming from like the retail and food places. So like any place like for instance, the Chipotle that's right by me, they have a now hiring sign. So literally when I go in there, before I used to probably wait in there for probably like 7 minutes on tops just to go in there, order my food and leave. Now it's about like 15 to 20 minutes because they don't have enough staff there. So I feel like that's an issue that everybody is seeing, especially when like you order your packages. I ordered something and it literally took a month for it to come. Just because the place that I ordered from didn't have enough people on hand, and they had so many just like orders that were just like backed up. But there are like just like you said before, there are multiple reasons why people are leaving their jobs. COVID was a time where the world really kind of slowed down and people started to realize what's more important. But from like a personal side, in terms of like why people would do it, there's a lot of reward there. I feel like people are starting to understand the value that they bring. I always say this is a job seeker's market. So now they realize that they have the actual power to really just like dictate where they want to go, as well as what they're willing to give up for these companies now. So you have people that are leaving because now they they love the remote work. I mean, for you and I don't know about you, but I love working from home. If not from home, then from like the office space. I mean, just having my own space, it saves me on travel time, travel money. I'm able to get what I need done in like the comfort of like my own place. I know this is something that there was an article that I read before too. It said something about like, especially for people of color, this remote work is like very significant because for us we don't have to code switch as much. So being able to just kind of be me all day without having to kind of change how like I speak, except for on call and stuff like that. But like that constant of like code switching, and that's something
that's a great point. Like I did not even think about that.
Yeah, so just staying home and just being you and just being happy, just do what like you need to do. Also, this idea of like work has definitely changed. Um, I feel like that nine to five schedule doesn't need to exist. If you give me a task, I can break it up into like a couple of hour blocks. So people are really starting to really see what's important to them and learn how they really want to work. So things like that are what companies are like now that COVID happened and things are kind of getting back to whatever normal is. Companies want people to come back. People don't want to go back. People don't want to have like that 9 to 5 schedule. And then I feel like one of the biggest concerns that I hear a lot is that the pay isn't there like at all. The fact that we have inflation, I think inflation now is like at 5 point something percent, and like is not really adding up to where the cost of living is. So depending on what like your job is, I want everybody to make sure that they're getting paid what like they're worth, or not what they're worth, but what like the job is for. So making sure that that aligns with what you're actually doing. And I mean there and pay is one of like those big things too, but just people are just thinking more about them than what the people are thinking about themselves more than what the company can offer. And I think that's leading to a lot of people leaving, especially like these retail jobs when people are literally working hours upon hours for not a lot of money, for just like $15 an hour. And in New York, $15 an hour is not enough to do anything. So those are my reasons why. I mean, I'm curious to hear like what you think, especially like what risks people have when thinking about this. I'm quitting my job.
Sure. So there is this idea of like uh, worker empowerment here, which is great. And a lot of the quits, I'm not going to call them quitters. A lot of the quits are in like the food and like retail industry, right? So when you think about how much time people are on their feet, how much they have to deal with rude customers in relation to how much they get paid within a system, within a government that still has what, 750 as the minimum wage, right?
Mm-hmm.
The risk reward to work those jobs isn't there. And I know before a lot of the, I guess the Protestant work ethic used to come into play where, well, that's where you get experience and you get a taste of what it means to like work hard and, have that routine of going to work. But we've transcended that. We cannot have any unpaid internships or unpaid labor, right? Like we did before. And then two, even without the recent inflation, right? You see your food prices, you see your gas prices. Even without that, folks were going without a livable wage for years now. So cost of living versus like the wages, it wasn't catching up. Wage inflation was actually what people were hoping for. And yeah, you're getting that now, but you're also getting inflation in your food and your like gas prices and things of that sort, things that you consume. So when you throw in all of these factors, yeah, who would want to work retail or at Chipotle? Like, who would want to do that? So the only way that those companies in those sectors can bring in talent is, well, one, we need to up pay. So now these companies are setting their own minimums because the government is too lazy / incompetent / stubborn to raise it themselves, right? Which is what they're supposed to do because they're supposed to look out for citizens. So companies are doing it. So there's 15 per hour get you back to Chipotle or working at the Gap, right? The 16 or the 17 do it. It might, but this is one of the few levers right now that companies have in this era of, people call it the Great Resignation, but it's in a bigger picture, it's actually like it's like a reawakening about like what's my purpose here. My purpose here is not to set up your bowl, your Chipotle bowl. It's not to full clothes that you messed up because you are an awful customer, right? So people are realizing that, and now they're going for something that could be remote, something that pays better. That's great. Now comes the downside. Well, fine. You'll be competing with more folks in this set number of roles. Some of those people won't have a gap in employment because they weren't in those industries that had a lot of quits. So how are you going to compete with them? How are you going to upskill yourself, right? Now, you've seen some of my trainings, and when I do this for orgs, I'll talk about transferable skills. There are a lot of transferable skills from working in food, hospitality, and retail, right? But do you also have the hard skills to go with some of these transferable skills? Are you going to have knowledge of certain technologies, even to do like customer success or customer experience roles? Because there's a lot of software involved now, right? How are you going to upskill yourself? So if you're going to quit your job, fine. Quit your job, but never quit learning and upskilling. That is my main message. There are no breaks. You have no breaks. You can quit. You may not get paid. You might get your unemployment check. That's fine. But you do not quit learning at all, because there's going to come a point where you need to get back out in the job market, and people are already ahead of you, or if you don't keep up and upskill, you're going to be, you're going to fall behind. And that's my main message. You're only quitting a job. You do not quit learning and upskilling. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you hit on like the nail. I think one of the biggest rewards is that people are understanding what aligns with their core values. Like what are they most like very, very passionate about. There was literally someone I was watching on YouTube. They left the TikTok. They were a senior product manager on TikTok. Well, at the TikTok. They left. I mean, for the how they were being treated, and there was like a lack of like growth. There wasn't like any growth for her. But she was like, you know what? I want to do like what I want to do, and that's a message that I feel like that's very strong amongst I guess everybody who's like actually within like this migration of like I don't want to work for this job, but I want to do something that I'm more just like passionate about. So being able to think about you first and putting yourself first, I think is one of the biggest reasons. But with all of these other factors of pay, costs, and cost of living, like it really adds up. I have two friends in Texas right now that literally they tell me every time like you should come to Texas. The cost of living is so low, and on top of that, there's no taxes. And they constantly, so shout out to Rodney and Jeremy, but constantly are always pressuring me to come. Maybe I'm actually thinking about it, but it's just the ease of living. I feel like I've been in the city. Well, I have been in like the city for my entire life, so I'm used to that hustle and bustle. But just to be in a place where I can actually enjoy and just kind of just relax, like that's something that I really look forward towards. So I feel like a lot of the people who are leaving their jobs, they have like a very just kind of like a similar feeling. Of course, with those other factors too, with pay and stuff like that. But having that calmness come once again, I think or come for the first time, I think is something that a lot of people are, putting first over everything.
That's fair. You know how I feel about this idea of passion. For me, it's overrated. So how do you know what you're passionate about? Like, unless you try it or you stick with it for a while. And I think I know the person you're referring to in that TikTok example.
I think her name is Chloe.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
And again, the explanation of that went semi-viral, right? And that's fine. Like, who would want to like leave a really hot company, right? And people value different things. But here's my thing, right? You can't just pick the positives. So if you're gonna quit and try to reap the benefits of what you want to do, fine. Don't complain about the consequences of maybe having to like look for a job that a next job, and that doesn't match your preferences once you're like several months into it. In fact, that might have been a downgrade compared to what you were doing at TikTok, or for whoever quits whatever you were doing at that company. So there's a risk there. You're assuming that next job is going to be a better situation than the previous one. And I'm not sure that's always the case, right? And then again, you might have this extended time where you're not making a whole lot of money, right? So hope you saved up, right? Because that's, again, it sounds insensitive, but it's actually rooted in fairness. Don't just yell out like the positives of this. Like, please take into account the negatives of this, right? And we do the risk reward show. That's what we're made to do, and like that's how we're made to think, because like there are pluses and minuses to these big decisions, and there's some families involved in making these quits, right? And again, a lot of this comes from like a really privileged place. There are folks who can't afford to quit. They can't afford that time. And these are the people that generally I've looked out for in my career, through my work. So that's fine if you all have that freedom to quit. More power to you. But there's some consequences in there that, if you're going to complain about it, like you're not being fair to the entire process. So it's the Great Resignation. I hope this causes really permanent changes in how we think about work. Also, there's an opportunity here to expand, beyond regions, like who we source as talent, because now it's no longer like who's near a city where rents might be higher, right? I would expect companies to, look into like rural areas and things of that sort. So there's a lot of opportunities here. I just want people to be fair about this. Yeah. Do you have one big takeaway?
Yeah. One last thing I'll say is this. I spoke to a handful of people that are leaving like their jobs to kind of start their own companies. But for anybody who starts their own company, I don't advise you to just jump into it. For you and I, this has been something that we have been working on for a very, very long time. So we have like a sense of how to, make it run and make sure like what's working is actually working, because we have, for me, I've had things that worked and things that failed. So I have a good sense of what does work and how to just maintain the actual company. But if you're leaving your 9 to 5 because you want to start your own business because you think you'll have more freedom, there is no more freedom. Like if you're working on your own business, it is 24/7, 365. I feel like the only plus is that it's something that you want to actually do, so you'll actually have more drive to do it. But don't think that you're going to start your company and be able to kind of travel everywhere, do like this and that, and think you'll have like that extra time, because you don't. Literally, this weekend was supposed to be like a chill weekend for me, but I had to get stuff done just in order to make sure that this week was a very easy week. So I want that to be something that's in the back of your head, because I feel like people always assume that, I'm going to start my own company and I'm just going to have freedom. Like, it doesn't work like that. You will have a rude awakening and you will regret every choice.
Yeah. So it is, I think entrepreneurs, and I'm at this for like 8 years now. So I've seen it pre-COVID, during COVID, post COVID. Well, not really post COVID now, but I've seen it in stages, and there's no way I would have predicted that during COVID was like my most fruitful time. Like, you're not going to predict that, right? But this idea of freedom, and I think this is related to that, to the Great Resignation. So freedom is just, it comes with trade-offs, right? And so for me, like my weekend, I got access to the New York City Wine and Food Festival because someone valued my company's work. So I brought, me and a collaborator who I've had, and we went to the festival. We went for free, surely because of someone just like acknowledging the work, and in her words, you deserve this, right? And then this week, I'm going to a gala tomorrow, and I'm going to Robin Hood's gala, which features the Jonas Brothers. I don't know any Jonas Brothers songs, but I'm still gonna go, right? But this is part of like what looks like freedom, but behind the scenes, this is actually relationship building, because I have to go to that gala because there's a relationship tied to it. I have to show face at a Robin Hood event because there's a relationship tied to it, right? Someone looked out for me, and like, I could have said no and like did some more work. Instead, I had to work on a Sunday, right? Because these relationships you want to nurture. So even when it feels like always having fun out there, I am, but it's hardly ever just fun, right? Mm-hmm. And again, there's risk rewards. And again, for those of you who are, quitting, I want to travel cross country on a van, and go ahead and do that. Just know it comes with some costs. And especially
back your money up.
Yeah, especially if you're traveling, it's probably going to come with higher gas costs. So just keep that in mind. And I think with that, we could tie a bow on our main topic. And again, we encourage folks who are tuning in, seeing this on a rewatch, please comment, please follow, and share. I think this is one topic that we'll try to maximize on our social media platforms, because it is a very heated topic. And there's a lot of pressures from many angles that both job seekers and job quitters, but also employers that are facing. And again, Derek and I, in our line of work, in our respective companies, we'd love to help out various angles. I think Derek more so has like the interfacing with individual talent, and for myself, I deal mostly with orgs. So that's the Grand Answers business model. But we work with orgs and companies mostly, and we'll stick to making impact for that. So wherever on the spectrum you are, feel free to reach out to us. So with that, let's get to our right move right now. So Derek, what's your right move right now?
I want everybody to be on the lookout for the new Bitcoin ETF that is set to launch tomorrow. Bitcoin has been something that has been spoken about for the past 10 years now. It was getting a whole bunch of flack. Then you had some major people do like some buy-ins. Some companies started to buy into it, but now stock market is. And I think I had a conversation with someone that sold Bitcoin when it hit like 29,000, and it's like they bought it at the top and then sold it at the low. I'm like, whatever, but that defeats the whole purpose. But it just goes to show that even though it may not have the most buy-in, now it's like the time where people are actually taking it serious. People are seeing this is something that's going to be of like value, like within due time. So for all of my holders out there, we are staying strong. We have we're going to ride this to top. And once again, I just want to mention we're not any financial advisors. I'm not telling you to buy into Bitcoin or even this ETF, but just make sure that you're aware of what's happening, especially within the financial market. I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need to gently shame that friend of yours. Are you
Oh,
saying
please do.
this person bought around the 50s or 60Ks and then sold in the 29Ks? What?
They were not confident in Bitcoin. They was like, "Oh no, it's going down too much. Let me get out now."
Okay,
I was like, "You idiot."
all right. So I think that so we need to, I guess, extend this right move right now because a sub right move right now is for people to check their emotions at the door. And I think we've had this thing about previous content where you asked me, so is it facts, no feelings? It's like, no, it's facts over feelings. So I know when you see an investment, your hard-earned money dropping down considerably, like the emotions start running wild. Like I get that, but I think this is where having your initial decision making based on like reason and logic, like having a reasonable thesis for why you went into Bitcoin should prevent you from selling out. Now, I can talk about folks I know who've done some ridiculous things during the pandemic regarding their money, but I saw my portfolio drop 30%. I was feeling that, like I felt it in my chest. Like it was just like the memory just flooded right now, and I was like, oh my god, I remember how I felt. But I had a rational thesis behind like why I was in my stocks and why, why I think I should stay invested or even put in more money, and that overrode the emotions. So for your friend and for anybody else here watching, like we cannot let our emotions guide these super important financial decisions, like buying a house or throwing some money in crypto, or like investing in like wild stocks. Like you can get lucky, but over time, all this emotionality probably ain't good for you.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to get to the next one that we have for the right move right now, but something that you brought up again. Um, Another person I know, they prefer to get a single family home over a multifamily home, and we went into a big argument on like why the single family home isn't the proper way to think about housing. I tried to put it in their head that housing, whenever you look for a house, like we can have like a deeper combo, but whenever you're looking for a house, don't think of it as like, oh, this is my dream home. Like a home is an investment. Literally, the fact that inflation's happening, house prices are going up like crazy. So it's like a store of value almost. So you shouldn't assume that the first house that you get should be a single family home. I think that is the worst decision that people can make when buying homes. If you buy homes, you should have a multi-family home, and you live in like one of the floors and stuff like that, just so whoever is living there can pay your rent for you. I can't tell people like the joy I get when every month there's rent paid, and literally it's not from me. My mortgage is being paid, and I'm not putting a dime towards it. So that is where the true investment comes. But the fact that you said that, it just sparked up a whole nother conversation that I had with like another person.
Well, this feels like we're having a real estate episode coming up real soon. That's what it felt like. So and for me, like I'm actually, I feel like I missed out on residential real estate. I'm actually looking for commercial real estate, because on the risk reward profile, that's more me right now. It's more of a value right now. So and that's what I'm looking for. But speaking of commercial and commerce, our last right move right now is this e-commerce partnership. So what's going on with Netflix and Walmart?
They're working together now. Netflix is going to be using Walmart to distribute all of their merch now. personally a little bit disappointed at this move. I know before Netflix was, they had like their own shop. I thought that was going to be, their way to kind of, start like their own like merch. But I do see why they would use a company like Walmart, just because they're touching so many people to kind of get like their product out. But I wish that Netflix would have I guess like continue to use their own shop and kind of build that up. But I mean they're really battling just Disney right now when it comes. I mean when it comes to streaming, like they're like their number one competitor, and Disney has Disney has Disney World, Disney stores are popping up, so they have their own like merch, I guess like hub. But Netflix working with Walmart, I do see like that type of power move, but I really wish that Netflix would have held that in house and just grew it.
That makes sense. Yeah. Disney has an empire alone with merch. So it's interesting to take a look into, and maybe it inspires like other business models. So with that, I think that's a full plate for this episode. Hopefully some of what we discussed regarding the Great Resignation really inspires you all to continue the conversation. Hit us up on LinkedIn, social media platforms like Instagram. And I hope you all tune in for episode number 36 next week. And again, follow, like, share. Thank you all for your support, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week.